Hello, and welcome to the Yearbooking Report podcast, an independent resource for yearbook advisors and staffs across America and beyond. I'm Scott Giese, and thank you for taking the time to listen. As we do this episode, it's now 2026 and roughly halfway through the school year. So, how's your effort going? While I hope the answer is, we're doing great. My 25 years of experience as a representative tells me that's probably not the case. Am I right? Well, if I am, perhaps part of the stress is financial, and especially when it comes to yearbook sales. Book sales across the country, frankly, have been slipping for years now. And while some folks had a boost post-COVID, that slide is still there. Part of that may be the so-called enrollment cliff, with declining student counts in many places across the country. That means it's a bit harder now to sell yearbooks to parents and students. And here is where we get to the issue of marketing. In my years in the field, my observation is that most yearbook advisors have no real idea of the importance of marketing or how to do it effectively. The simple definition of marketing is just getting people's attention. Companies and businesses try to do this with ads and commercials or online postings or pop-up ads. Good creative marketing leads to good sales. Remember actress Sydney Sweeney and her American Eagle jeans? Yeah, that one certainly got attention. And American Eagle's jean sales went up over 35% after that campaign ran. Good marketing works, but it's more than just your yearbook company sending out emails to parents. No, it's way more than that. So we're talking the value and ideas of marketing in this episode. Now, TYR is an independent resource, but for this one, we decided to go with a yearbook company person, someone very involved when it comes to yearbook marketing. We talked to Shaun Stapleton. He's the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Entourage Yearbooks. That's a group of 4 companies under one umbrella. We wanted to get some top-level views on yearbook marketing, but also we were looking for fresh ideas that any yearbook staff could run, not tied to any particular company. In-school ideas designed to get attention. This chat goes a bit long this time, but Shaun and I really dug into what works, frankly, what doesn't with yearbook marketing, but also how anyone can do this. So to begin, let's meet Shaun. Well, Shaun, first off, a big thank you for joining me here on the Yearbooking Report podcast. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much for having me on, Scott. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Now, folks, today we're going to cover a topic that Shaun, in my 25 years in the field as a representative for a yearbook company, this is a topic that rarely got discussed, almost never happened in a school, but yet for me, it's half the equation. And we're going to talk about marketing and sales today. Now, advisors, don't go running for the exits and hit the video off. Stop. Just stop what you're doing, okay? Don't do that. We're going to hopefully share some ideas. We're going to sort of do the why and the how, because why is this so important, especially anytime, but especially these days? And sort of the how. Hey, here's some ideas to think about and consider when it comes to marketing, not only your book, but also yourselves, which is another thing. I think a lot of yearbook staffs, they don't even think about that. They're the group in the pack room, and we have no idea what they're doing back there until somebody pops out with a camera. No, folks, we've got to change this, and maybe we'll do this with this particular episode. So here we go. All right, first off, Shaun, let's get some background information about you, if we could, please. Tell us about yourself. You work for Entourage Yearbooks. I'm going to assume most folks have heard at least of Entourage Yearbooks. So tell us about yourself, your background, what do you do, and also tell us about something about Entourage. Tell us about the company, you and the company. What can you tell us?
Absolutely, Scott. Appreciate it. So I have been working with the Entourage Yearbook brand for the past 11 years. Kind of started my way up through a junior level position, and now I find myself as the VP of Sales and Marketing for Entourage Yearbooks. It has been a great journey. Yearbooks were something that were very near and dear to me growing up. I still have all of mine from all my high school years, actually down through my middle school years, and I can't tell you how often I still bring those bad boys out. And it's truly inspiring for me to be able to work in an industry that every single day there are new problems to be solved, new opportunities arise. But at the end of the day, it's all about seeing those smiling faces at the end of the year when these students, teachers, faculty members, parents get to relive these awesome moments that these schools get to experience throughout the entire year. The yearbook market, in particular, has gone through a lot of changes. And Scott, I know you know this probably better than anyone, you being in the industry 25 years. There are always ebbs and flows, both from a yearbook standpoint in terms of design, but also from a sales and marketing standpoint as we've come into a tech age with apps, the Canvas of the world, right? New options to be able to sell type products on Instagram, through social media, right? All these different opportunities. The companies that have been able to weather the storm, particularly through the COVID area, were the ones who were proactive, not reactive, right? Figuring out ways to still produce books, create content for meaningful yearbooks in a time when students were not at school. Right. So that's what I'm so proud of that Entourage in particular was able to weather the storm in 2020, 21, and 22 and still produce high quality yearbooks, but also giving content for them to fill their yearbook pages with because there weren't as many sports, there weren't as many extracurricular activities, right? And so Entourage, has been around for 20 years. We actually just celebrated our 20th anniversary this past summer. And we plan on being here for another 50 to 100, hopefully. So I'm super excited to really hone in on what I think the biggest leak in the yearbook market is right now. And you and I have discussed this privately, but how to market your yearbook. I think that is the biggest opportunity for schools to no longer be in the red, right? Too many of the schools that reach out to Entourage come to us and say, well, I'm already 5, 10 grand in the hole. What are you going to do different to make sure that that hole doesn't get dug deeper, right? What opportunities, what mechanisms do you have in that world? And so I'm really excited to talk about some best practices, things that I have seen over my 11 years with the company, some of my best pupils, I call them, that I've been able to work with side by side over these years, and what has been able to help them the most through their yearbook journey.
All right, now two things. First off, folks, we are going to have books 50 years from now. We're going to have books, okay? I mean, goodness, I've been hearing about the demise of the book for decades. Nope, we still got them and they're still valuable. Although we could have fun with yearbook trivia, for the youngsters, younger advisors maybe watching or listening. What is a scropper? If you have no idea what that is, you're going to have to do some web searching or ask a really veteran yearbook advisor. What on earth was a scropper? Oh, that was back in the day, but we'll save that for another time. All right, now, Shaun, we're talking here in mid-December, so roughly right smack in the middle of a school year. You're a national executive, if you will. How are either your company in particular or just in general, and be honest, how are yearbook sales going right now? Again, those
Yeah,
predictions that, oh boy, that, it's going the wrong direction and so on. From your numbers, experience, whatever, right now, how are yearbook sales going?
Yeah, I think it all goes back to the ideology of like the core problem with yearbook marketing today is schools aren't bad at yearbooks, right? They're really bad at marketing, generally speaking. So it's interesting that you wanted to talk with me about this topic because my CEO, Elias Joe, actually formulated a game plan for us this year, and we built these things called AMP and starter kits. And essentially, what these AMP and starter kits do is it's a yard sign, it's some banners, some handouts, things of that nature to help jumpstart your marketing initiatives, right? Early in the year. And I think you and I will hit on this topic later too, as well. But too often, schools are starting way too late. Right. And generally speaking, when a school opens their store, sells a product or the yearbook early, they are more likely to A, complete the project, sell more yearbooks for that particular year, B, and C, finally, find more pride. Because if you start early, particularly on the marketing side, you'll be able to come up with some ideas or different, I want to call like almost ideologies, right? for that particular yearbook if you start early, and things just seem to pop a little bit more. So on the Entourage side, we really wanted to focus on getting people with their stores set up early through these AMP and starter kits. In terms of sales, that was able to increase our sales substantially from a store standpoint. But it also encourages people across all of the schools to talk about their yearbook. Oh, I already bought my yearbook. Maybe they'd used a tiered pricing system to be able to get a better deal in the October, November, December timeframes. Buy it before January 1st, $15 off standard pricing, right? There's a lot of different things you can do leading up to this halfway point that you mentioned in a school year that can really help drive some really good knowledge about the yearbook program at a particular school, but also get people talking about it too, right? Getting some mojo going basically early. And that's what we were trying to accomplish with our AMP and starter kits. We actually just ran a second run through on this particular project and reached out to schools. We had originally reached out in the September timeframe, and we had another almost 200 orders come in to order either another starter kit or AMP kit or their first one, right? So they're definitely helping out getting the project jump started for 2025-26. But just remember, schools are not bad at yearbooks. They just need to get a little bit better at the marketing aspect of it.
Okay. I would agree with all of that. Yes, and we're going to dig more into that as we go along here. All right. From a company perspective, now I love to study, education, and I'm on a bunch of email lists and get the latest trends in education and all that sort of thing. There's a fancy term right now, which is enrollment cliff, which is mainly aimed at colleges. And the idea is fewer kids are coming out of high school in America today to eventually, hopefully, go off to college. And so colleges are going to have to compete a lot more for fewer students. Not a giant leap, but just a kind of a leakage over a number of years now. So that means high schools, middle schools, whatever, nationally have fewer students. Now, I'm curious, Shaun, from a company perspective, I mean, is this something you folks are talking about, studying? Like, okay, we're going to have fewer customers in the future. Is there any kind of debate on that from a national angle right now?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you originally were talking about and saying yearbooks aren't going anywhere. And the reality of the situation is the product might change, the mechanisms for how we market them and what a yearbook looks like might change, but the tangible fact of holding a yearbook is still just as important now in my mind and across all of our customers' minds as it was 30, 40 years ago, right? Sure, it's more technologically advanced, it's digitized, all these different things. But in reality, the yearbook programs that I see, particularly at the high school level, are the ones that I interact with at the most. They're actually seeing a rejuvenation into the journalism and yearbook sector at their schools. So I think the kids that are kind of going retro on us a little bit now. And it's something that's really awesome to see. But it's not something I would say, Scott, that's been particularly discussed at Entourage in general. We continue to see growth year over year and gaining of schools, yearbook companies, as well as employees on our end. But it's more about providing a service and a product that every type of school wants to utilize, right? And giving them the opportunity to work appropriately, whether it's in an actual classroom setting, whether it's an after school activity, whether it's with the PTA moms, right? Having fun with it for an elementary or middle school, perhaps. But yeah, I mean, it's not something that we have seen. We've actually seen an uptick, in my opinion.
We'll return with more from Yearbook Marketing Executive Shaun Stapleton in just a moment. We'll start to dig into the what and the why of marketing, what works, what really doesn't, and the importance of that book you're creating when it comes to sales. All that and more in just a bit. Once again, we're about halfway through the school year as we release this episode. If you haven't already, take some time right now to assess where your effort is at this point. Are you on schedule? If you have a larger book, perhaps you've had a page deadline already. If you're behind right now, yeah, that's not good. Doesn't matter what the reasons are. Getting on schedule is rule number one. Why is that important? Well, maybe not every company tacks on extra charges for being late, but most of them do. And frankly, that's like burning money. And being late could push your ship date back a week or several weeks. If you expect to get your new books in mid May for distribution and now it's mid June, your audience, of course, will not be pleased. What to do if this is you right now? Well, alert your company or representative about your situation. Reps are supposed to keep track of deadlines, but some, frankly, are afraid to bring it up. Instead, you bring it up. Let them know that you need help. That's why they're there, to assist in situations like this. Don't be a stranger, but also don't ignore the problem. See how your rep or company can make any possible adjustments to get you caught up, because everybody wins when that happens. Posting with other advisors, well, that's nice, but that's not going to help when you need to reach your company and rep. Let them know your issues so you can get some direct help. And if that help is somehow hard to come by, then maybe it's time to check out other companies. We all know that school life is tougher and more stressful than in years past. Have somebody close up helping you out in a jam is just what is needed. Contact your rep or company today. Let them know, hey, I need a hand here, and they should be responding. Now, let's share some insights and ideas on good yearbook marketing with guest Shaun Stapleton here on the Yearbooking Report.
All right, let's get on to marketing here. Now, Shaun, there's a line I've used for a lot of years, sometimes with advisors, and I get kind of looks like this and so on. It's intentionally harsh, but I haven't changed my opinion. It's simply, you could make the best yearbook in school history this year. I mean, it's a killer yearbook. It's got pictures, great pictures, lots of stories, great page designing, just an awesome looking book, great cover, all that stuff. And if you're not selling them, if nobody's buying one, you failed. And that's my opinion. My question to you, I guess, I don't know, is that maybe a little harsh? Because when I look at yearbooking, there's production and there's marketing sales. For me, that's a 50-50 prospect. You ask most yearbook advisors, it's probably more like 90-10 or something like that. Am I being a little harsh? If you can make an awesome book, if nobody's buying one, you flunked. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't think you're being too harsh. I think that you're bringing in a reality of, generally speaking, yearbook classes, yearbook advisors are very creative by nature, right? And generally speaking, they might not be as strong in maybe in the sales aspect, the marketing aspect of it. Every high school advisor room that I walk into, or yearbook class that I walk into, and even middle school classrooms, honestly, is I make sure that when I'm talking about creating a yearbook, like you mentioned, I spend 50% of my time talking about the creative side. What are we doing for the cover? What's our theme this year? What's our brand guide look like? Those types of things, right? But then I also hold a separate section for maybe those students who aren't as creative, right? But they're doing yearbook because they need the credits, or they have a friend in the class, whatever. Those tend to be the people who can really help market a yearbook, getting the online store set up early, reaching out to local businesses to get ads placed into the yearbook so that you can garner some more interest from outside of the school for the yearbook, but also to help raise money for the project in and of itself. So I think as a yearbook advisor, person overseeing a yearbook project, I think it's very important to identify who are going to be your creative people at this process at the beginning of the year, and who are going to be your people who are going to be out there selling and marketing the book. Maybe a lot of the times it's your photographers. Generally are those people too as well, I find, because they're going to all the events. So every event they go to, they should have a little business card in their pocket that has a QR code on it, right? That goes directly to the store to purchase an ad, purchase a yearbook, right? All these things. And we'll get into some more tools that a lot of yearbook companies offer, but the ones that work very well on the Entourage side later in this talk about how to garner interest, right? How to get people excited about it. But that would be my big piece of advice there, is really designate a sales and marketing team for the yearbook project itself. And they need to own that, right? They need to own the ad process. They need to own the store process of that, own the tiered pricing structures that might be involved about that, and communicating that to the students, the educators, and the parents. Hey, you buy it before January 1st, it's $50. You buy it after January 1st, it's 75. If you buy it after March 1st, it's 100, right? And making sure you get access to email lists of parents early, right? And owning that process just as much as you own the creative side. Because like you said, it's been way too often I've seen somebody create a CSPA, JEA certified approved book. And at the end of the day, they're selling 50 copies and they have 1,000 students at their school. It's something that we hate, right? It's something that you hate to see. And it's because the focus was solely on creatives. And there is a whole other branch of yearbooks that I think gets left in the dust, as you've alluded to.
I agree, 100%. Maybe we need a definition here, Shaun.
Sure.
That term marketing, oh, that's a fancy term. Oh, I don't know what that means exactly. Your definition exactly, right? What is marketing? What is, I think a lot of folks, they hear that term, oh, that sounds really hard. It's not. So what is marketing exactly, either broadly or maybe yearbook specific? How would you define that word?
I mean, honestly, it's kind of broken down into a couple of different areas. Remember, when we're talking about marketing in this forum, you're talking about a lot of student-led content, right? And I will tell you that people appreciate authenticity over polish, particularly when it comes to real-world initiatives or real-world situations, right? And so when you're talking about marketing from that, it's okay to not be a Fortune 500 company and do everything perfectly, right? But getting out on the street, visiting businesses, talking it up, that is more important to the overall process and that student-led type of content, right? Not just on the creative side, but on the sales and marketing side. The other thing too is it's about the teachers and the staff advocacy, providing the support to the students and allowing them to have a trusted voice, rather than just having a loud voice, right? And telling them, oh, you have to do X, Y, Z, and you have to do it in this manner, right? There are ways and protocols to follow, but at the end of the day, tell them that you trust them. Tell them that you know that they're going to reach out to the right businesses. They're going to be at every single event that they humanly can be, right? And be supportive of them and treat them the same way, the sales and marketing aspect of it, the same way that you treat the creative side, right? I think that that's very, very important. The last thing too here that I wanted to touch on is there are so many parent facing channels or ways to get in touch with parents these days, right? I think a lot of schools tend to fall into this, oh, I can only email them. I'll send one email once a quarter or once a month, whatever, right? But you have so many different ways to be able to reach out to parents, whether it's student activities, whether it's sports, whether it's a particular function. But emailing, calling, these types of aspects can be done to the parents too as well. And I think too often we get caught in a bubble of there's only one way to do something, right? And that's through email. And when they buy their pictures, they should buy their yearbook. But in reality, there are so many different avenues that you can go down from a parent route, as well as getting their involvement in the yearbook process. Have them send in photos, right? I know everyone always hears about, parents sending in baby pictures for seniors, right? That type of stuff. But why aren't we getting them involved when we have a Friday night football game, right? Here's a QR code. Send all your photos into this QR code. They'll be more likely to purchase the yearbook, more likely to look at the yearbook, and if they're actually thinking that a photo of theirs could be involved, right? And so I just think that the ability for schools and students to focus on involvement and less of the nitty gritty is what will ultimately get them to the end game of what marketing looks like from a yearbook standpoint. And every case will be different too. That's okay. Marketing is steady. It's not necessarily loud. And I think everyone thinks that it has to be this drastic over the top thing to make it work. It has to go viral, right? That's not the case. Just be consistent and steady and get a lot of involvement. That is the best way to go about it.
All right, I think, if we talk about marketing in general for your book, we can break it up into there's company marketing, things that
Right.
my company can do for me, the advisor, me. And then, of course, there's in-school marketing, which we've had forever. All right. Now, Shaun, you're a company person, okay?
Right.
I would say a lot has changed in the last 10 years, maybe,
Oh, yeah.
when it comes to company marketing. What is working on the company level for marketing yearbooks right now? Email is email. It's been
Right.
there for a very long time. Now, some other things kind of popping in there. What's working from the company perspective, Shaun, when it comes to yearbook marketing right now?
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go back to one of my original points here that school-led marketing feels trustworthy. It really, truly does, right? Company marketing feels completely optional to parents, right? They get, like we talked about, they get millions of emails from the labs for their photos, from us for the yearbooks, right? And then everything else in between. So I will tell you the best thing and what Entourage has done, as I mentioned with the AMP and the starter kits, is we want to support the schools in their marketing endeavors. So giving them the tools, giving them the posters, giving them the order forms, giving them the ability to have a yard sign with a QR code on it, all these things, right? Ask your company to support you in your marketing endeavors because your personal endeavors from a school level will resonate more with the parents and with the students than them getting email blasted consistently from Entourage Yearbooks. That is the reality of it. So one of the things the CEO and I are working on right now, excuse me, is finding other opportunities in items that these schools want and need to support their marketing efforts, right? Where is the bucks, kind of coming short, right? What can the yearbook company do to support you? What can we send out? To help you support the sales and the marketing aspect of the yearbook year in and year out. But parents, I'll tell you, they trust the communication that comes from the school. They do not trust companies generally, right? So if we can strengthen the relationship between the school and the parents via some of our opportunities and different things that we can provide, that at the end will help them sell more books. And that will strengthen the overall yearbook program on the school level too, as well. So look inward, not outward. There isn't a magic sauce from a yearbook company, that's for sure.
Okay, now, Shaun, there's a quick follow-up because I hit this too many times over a bunch of years. A yearbook advisor just doesn't want to deal with this. And they may come up with a parent email list. Okay, company, here, take my parent email
Yep.
list. You handle everything. I'm not going to do anything.
Right.
You kind of follow up on what you sort of just said. No, there's two ways that we need to go here. It's not just company driven. I think you said it. The in school is what parents trust more.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit more about that, please.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy for a school or educators or a district to give us a parent list, right? And we can run drip campaigns till our eyes bleed, right? We can email them weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever we want to do. But at the end of the day, they should be taking those lists. And there are protocols and I know compliance stuff that they have to follow, obviously. But you can use that list as a gold mine, right? You can attach it to your social media platforms, your Instagrams, your Facebooks, your communication channels with parents, and making sure that it is getting communicated that every time you post about your yearbook or an event or whatever it might be, right? It'll pop up on their timeline, right? So I would encourage if you are blessed enough, because not every school can get access to a parent email list or name list essentially. Most can, but some can't. Treat that like it's a gold mine because it is, right? That is your communication channel to your parents directly, but you can do it on a social media level. Definitely do it on the email level. I hope everyone understands Scott and I are not saying that email is dead and you can't, like, it's a very important avenue for this, but you essentially have your golden ticket right in front of you. And how and what you communicate to those lists are very, very important. Right. I've had a couple of high schools do calling campaigns to all the senior parents. Now, again, these have generally been schools that have graduating classes of 400 to 500, right? But they've made a phone call to those parents and said, "Hey, did you know there's student ads available? We're running a special on it, $75, half page ad. It'll really help us out in getting more books to the seniors this year." And they go through a calling list, 400 to 500 calls. But it generates thousands and thousands of dollars of sales. And then all of a sudden, every senior gets a yearbook, right? Because we made the effort to reach out. So social media channels, again, we talked about email is very important, right? But it's too many people use it as a crutch. And so make sure you're making those phone calls, make sure you're doing those visits to the business. That is where the gold lies. Those personal interactions, making people care about the yearbook and the process that goes into it, the stories that are built in there is what ultimately I think is what's most important. And no one better than the students to communicate that.
Yeah, a lot of advisors, hey, we need to sell more books. All right, let's get a daily announcement on. Hey, let's put some more posters up.
Absolutely.
Parents are never going to hear the daily announcement and they're never going to see those posters. And it's the rare kid I've run into, the kid buys a book. No, it's the parent, okay? It's absolutely the parent. So you mentioned email, you mentioned phone calling. Are there any other ones? Do you know, put it this way, Shaun, do you know of anybody, all right, everybody has one of these in their pocket, all right?
Yep.
Texting, maybe? Are there other electronic ways to try to reach parents wherever they are?
So in a world of technology, I did talk a little bit about social media, right? So the Instagrams, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the TikToks, right? The schools that perform at the highest level are the ones that over communicate on those types of platforms. Okay. In this day and age, as parents are getting, my generation is starting to have kids in high school, middle school. A lot of us are still social or dependent on social media, right? So I can't stress enough how important it is to communicate on social media, and just making a silly video, 10 to 15-second TikTok video with a link at the bottom and a QR code can be all the difference sometimes. But also, as you mentioned, texting is a huge deal too. So if you do have access to your parent list, et cetera, and they have opted in to receive text messages, obviously be compliant. That is the best way to get into somebody's pocket, Scott. I think that's a very good point you bring up. And all you need to do is put a little short URL in there. Yearbook cost going up in 2 days. Click this link. Make sure you buy now. So that type of communication, I think, gets through, particularly around the holiday season. So a lot of schools generally will do tiered pricing, and it goes up on January 1st or January 5th, whatever the first day of school back is after the holiday season. So communicating heavily now, particularly when schools are out, is actually a great time to get some extra sales, and jumpstart, the sales of the yearbook for that particular year too as well. So again, it's just dependent on if you have that golden ticket that some schools get access to and some don't. So it is a case by case basis there.
All right. Definitely want to talk about in-school type ideas, but let me touch on this first. And I think you might have mentioned this a few minutes ago, the importance of the product. There's an old line about slick salesmen. That guy's so good, he can sell ice to Eskimos, that old line. Okay, that might be sort of true. Eskimos have plenty of ice, okay? If a yearbook is so, as opposed to this yearbook, like, wow, look at that. Shaun, that really is important. And I think that needs to be maybe part of the message to advisors. Yeah, the quality of the product that you are creating is so important, especially telling stories. Touch more on that if you would, please.
Yeah, sure. So I mentioned, I think what I said earlier was authenticity beats polish every time. That's the reality of it. And unfortunately, we know in the world that we live in, every year there are human interest stories or things that occur on a micro, macro level, whether it's a personal story with a student at the school, a family that was affected by some type of disaster, things of that nature. That will sell more, that type of product or that type of story, that personal touch rather than polish is actually a lot more important. I will tell you, we had a lot of schools that were unfortunately destroyed in the Palisade fires. We lost schools in northern Georgia and western North Carolina, those schools had some of the most amazing stories to tell about their perseverance, their community coming together through tragic events that will affect these families and humans for 5, 10 years from now, right? Things were upended. Their yearbook sales were the highest they've ever been, even though they didn't even have a building in some circumstances. Entourage was able to provide them with obviously some support. We flew down to several of these schools and made sure that they were good. We presented their yearbooks to them in some cases. But I will tell you, the community rallied around this yearbook because they wanted to showcase how much perseverance there was, right? But it's not just when a disaster happens, okay? It can also be when school performs at a very high level athletically, performs at a very high level academically, right? You want to celebrate those things within your community. And honestly, Scott, I think that's something that has really been lost, particularly over the past 10 to 15 years, is we're all kind of getting lost in this shuffle of technology, right? And we're kind of forgetting about the things that made us who we are, particularly on the school level, and celebrating those things and being authentic. And those are the things that'll bring the yearbook to the next level and keep people interested, right? Telling that local story about a business that went under for whatever reason, but persevered and came back and has an ad in the actual yearbook itself will sell more copies than having a perfect JEA approved yearbook year in and year out. I truly believe that.
It's all about the stories, folks. As many stories as you can tell every particular year. It's so much about the story.
We'll get back to our final segment with Yearbook Marketing Executive Shaun Stapleton in just a bit, as we dig more into the value of marketing, why your in-school promotion efforts are the most effective ideas out there. We'll be sharing a few, along with some advice from Shaun for any stressed-out advisor. And we look to the future, and especially AI. What could happen there in the yearbook world? All that and more in just a moment. In this final segment, we also talk for a bit about the one part of marketing that is usually overlooked, and that is one word: regularity. All right, my opinion, too many advisors put out some announcement about the yearbook one day and then don't do anything again for weeks. Regularity is a huge key to success for any marketing effort, and yes, that could mean every day. Now, no, don't bludgeon your audience by asking them to buy a copy of your book every single day. That gets old quick and people tune out. Instead, use some basic ideas like showing off some completed pages so people can actually see the merchandise, posting fresh photos to keep your audience entertained, doing easy surveys and polls to get your students engaged with your effort by offering their opinions and quotes. Then keep doing those things on a steady basis so people know that the yearbook staff is hard at work. And of course, don't forget the parents, the people who actually buy yearbooks. Reach them via social media or other ways. Post material on school video boards, if you have them, or that message board, probably outside your building. That is good marketing, active and interactive all year long. For middle and high school and college advisors, hey, you have enough to do. Get students doing a lot of this material. I know you have some kids who love to take pictures and kids who just love social media. Put that experience to good use and get them running the plays while you supervise. That is regularity. Now, what are some of those good plays? Well, let's return to more with marketer Shaun Stapleton here on the Yearbooking Report.
Now, all right, Shaun, let's go old school. All right, we've done high-tech stuff, marketing, email, all that sort of thing. We've had old school yearbook marketing forever. And I think some folks, they hear old school like, oh, that doesn't work anymore. No. Shaun, I'm curious to hear your thoughts first on the importance of in-school marketing, and let's maybe share some ideas maybe that you have seen. They're not high-tech, but boy, they get attention and they work.
Absolutely.
What about in-school marketing? Go ahead.
Absolutely. So if your yearbook company is not providing free posters, free order forms for you, you need to be going to a different yearbook company. Okay. It's absolutely ridiculous that they wouldn't provide those items to you. So they work. Okay. But the reality of the situation is they only work if they communicate at a level that explains to them the easiest, most efficient way to buy their yearbook, the timetable and cost. Right. So on the Entourage Yearbooks platform, you are entitled to free order forms. You editable, by the way. It's not just some generic. You can edit it. You can make it yours. Same thing with posters too, as well. Those are all included in addition to that AMP kit that I had mentioned earlier. Those things work. Now, the technology side of that, okay, is first of all, make sure you're putting the banners and the order forms in appropriate places. You're handing them out at events, right? Friday night basketball games, dances, all these things, right, that can come up. So be consistent with where you're placing those items. Don't hang the banner in the back of the teacher's lounge. It's not going to do any good there. Front door, when people walk in, and here's the technology part of it. QR codes, okay? This is a huge opportunity, and you can use QR codes in a lot of different ways, okay? A QR code can link you to a website. A QR code can link you to a video. A QR code can link you to photos. QR code can link you to be able to dump photos into a particular folder, right? So there's a lot of different ways that QR codes can be used. If you honestly look at a lot of even Entourage marketing from a company standpoint, pretty much everything we put out has a QR code on it, okay? Everyone tends to know what it is, as you showed before. Everyone has one of these beautiful things in their pocket to be able to scan QR codes these days. It leads them to a little bit more interest, right? So, one big thing that I have found huge success with on my schools is whenever they are having a big event, and this is a very cool product that Entourage offers, is when you set up your account, you have folders you create for your photos, right? So basketball season, golf season, um, you get my point. So after school activities, right? What my schools do, my highest performing ones, is you can create a QR code that is actually an email address that you scan it, and then you can upload photos directly into the yearbooks folders. Okay. So when you're going into the state final game for the basketball game, you hand out these cards that say, hey, scan this QR code, send photos from tonight's game to this QR code, and you might be actually showcased in our yearbook at the end of the year. Oh, by the way, here's the link to go buy the yearbook too, as well. Get interactions from parents, students, grandparents, aunts, and uncles who are watching their nieces, nephews at these types of events. People, I mean, with the way that these cameras are these days on all of our phones, okay, they are honestly yearbook quality as long as you're not zooming in. Okay, it's not zooming in on a camera, it's pixelating, right? So as long as you're taking photos that are clear, there is a very good opportunity for it to be in the yearbook. Drive engagement from your community by getting them involved. Them thinking their photo might be in the yearbook will encourage them to buy a yearbook or buy a yearbook for their student, right? And you can do this for all events. You can do it for classrooms. I mean, there's just the end of it's just the possibilities are endless. But when it comes to in-school marketing, it is very important, Scott. You're hitting the nail on the head. But it's what does it look like? What does it have on it? And what does it communicate to both the students and the parents that will drive that success? But for God's sake, please use a QR code and link it to a funny video from the basketball game last week. Have some fun with it, right? But also utilize it within a platform that's going to drive more sales for you too as well.
Okay. Now, Shaun, when I think marketing, I just think, okay, we need to get people's attention that, okay, something's going on here. Photos are needed, selling the yearbook, looking for stories. Marketing is getting people's attention. Now, either your group or maybe schools you work with, I'm thinking really, maybe it's just my age. I don't know. I'm thinking old school, like sidewalk chalk at the entrance of the
Oh,
building.
there you go.
I mean, do you know of schools that work with you folks or you work with them directly and so on, just sort of old-fashioned marketing ideas that maybe, don't need any kind of technology really, but the idea is they get attention. Do you have
So,
anything like that?
yeah, actually, I have a pretty funny story about a local high school here in Indiana. It's one that I visit 2 or 3 times a year, and they were struggling with some yearbook sales, or more so ad sales, right? So, a majority of these larger high schools, they have a very nice football field facility, right? And so, what they went to, they have a fence that actually went around the entire football field, and they used cups and they filled the rings on the fence itself and spelled out "Buy your yearbook today" with the cups. And then they put this huge, I know I'm going to go back to it, I'm sorry, but the cups are old school, the QR code. So they printed out a very large QR code, and it's on a very busy street in Indiana. And so people that were walking by on the sidewalks or people that were driving by sitting at the traffic light, they could buy their yearbook or their ads too. And the interesting thing there is that they actually got two businesses to buy ads from and it literally said buy a yearbook and then underneath buy a yearbook ad, something like that. And they scanned the QR code, went to the website, and they raised some money for the school. The yearbook chalk is an interesting one. I've never seen that. I have seen schools that use projectors. So at events, they will shoot it onto the wall, they'll shoot it onto the field with the yearbook information. Go to Concourse 104. Go to the southwest corner of the yearbook. Of the football stadium. Meet in room 210 at 7 p.m. to pre-buy your yearbook. So the projectors are also a good one that I've seen. Again, these are generally for big events that involve parents, grandparents, all the facets, not just students, not just the educators, right? Because those are the people who are ultimately, like you mentioned earlier, that are buying the yearbooks. It's the parents and the grandparents and the community that were missing out on that market. So those would be two ones that put a big smile on my face that I can think of over the past couple of years.
Okay. I like that cup idea. That's a new one. I don't think I've
Yeah,
ever heard of that one before. That's pretty
yeah.
cool. By the way, advisors, grandparents. Oh, yes, they would like to buy a yearbook for their grandchild. Are you kidding? Don't ignore them. If there's some way to somehow get the message to them, oh, yeah, they've got money probably. Oh, yes, I'm going to buy Junior a yearbook. Oh, do it. Yeah. Now, Shaun, something I think you might have touched on earlier, which again, a lot of advisors, they probably don't have business experience and so on. And so their thought is, okay, we're going to do some in-school stuff. Okay, we're going to do this. And then in a few weeks later, okay, we're going to do this. It's kind of oof, oof. It's just maybe once a month or something, they do something. What is the value of regular marketing, regular messaging on a regular basis, at least every week, maybe more frequently than that? Why should schools and advisors follow that idea?
Goes back to my original idea or what we talked about earlier of marketing works when it's steady and not loud, right? So doing three huge blasts in December, March, and May is not going to get you the same results as if you're doing it September awareness, October storytelling, November parent reminders, January urgency, and then all your spring celebrations, right? So at the end of the day, consistency will beat out just going for gold, the Hail Mary, right? And again, consistency matters, right? Marketing is one of these items, and it doesn't even have to be just for yearbooks, just any aspect of life. It is a real world tool, and every student will kind of utilize it differently. But I will tell you, with running marketing for a yearbook company year round, the years that we have performed at the highest level is that when we game planned early, we executed that plan, but then also mixed in a few extra events, a few extra outreaches, right? When things arose. Oh, we forgot that the daddy-daughter dance was this particular week. We got to sucker the dads in to buy the books that week when they're there with their daughters. Like, just those opportunities arise, right? But setting out and generally we know school years run about 7 to 8 months, right? So laying out a game plan for those 8 months early, please start in August. That is my biggest piece of advice. It's just continuing to be steady and not just praying for a Hail Mary and a loud blowout at the end of the year. And it's just such a real world tool, and it can apply in so many facets of our life. For example, I'm heading out on a vacation next week. That vacation going to go a lot smoother if I'm planning with my wife right now, as opposed to doing everything on Monday morning, because we all know how that'll turn out, right? So it's a very good tool to have and can be used in a wide variety of areas of your life too, as well. So I think that's very important. Steady, not loud.
All right, let me put you on the spot. All
Okay.
right, we got advisors watching or listening to this, and they're thinking, yeah, boy, I really need to do something. One idea, I don't know, your favorite idea, most effective idea, whatever idea, one idea that they can literally start using today, like right now, like if they're in school listening to this or something like that. One idea they can get started with right away. What would that be?
So I'm going to sound like a broken record, Scott, but I am telling you the QR code is the easiest and most efficient way to communicate, and blasting that all over your socials, all over your communication channels that we've already discussed too as well, but also having some fun with it, right? And relating to these people on a human level, right? There's always holiday season, there's always the dance season, there's the football season, right? But like really pushing on the time frames through these QR codes and communicating that way, I am telling you, has made all the difference for a majority of my schools. But that is just the one that keeps popping into my mind because that is one that has been the most effective for us. Again, on a variety of level, macro, micro, from a YouTube standpoint, a TikTok standpoint, all these things, right? Get people excited about your school and what you are doing on a daily basis. That is what, as you have said, the stories sell the yearbook, not the actual content itself. So communicate those stories, not just what we're printing and creatively making.
All right, now we're starting to wrap up here. Let's go bigger and broader a little bit. All right. You, in some cases, work with schools, like you talking about work with schools, and you have communications with schools and so on. I keep reading, again, I follow education, teachers under stress, tough times, kids are different. What you have to do in school is different, the various things and hoops that teachers have to jump through. Advisors, of course, aren't just advisors. They're also the history teacher, the math teacher, the English teacher, the basketball coach, the whatever. There are a lot of advisors I know, Shaun, from experience that they're kind of overwhelmed.
Sure.
And from your perspective, from the work that you do, how do we help overwhelmed advisors? What's advice that you would give to an advisor listening, thinking, "Man, I'm just about this close to quitting. I'm this close."
Yep.
What's some advice? What would you tell them?
You're not alone. Okay. We deal, Entourage alone has about 6,700 schools we work with. Our other brands have in the magnitude of 3,000. I can't tell you how many times over my 11 years I've had an advisor just come to me like, my students, they are not committed. I can't get them to buy in. And I'm just done. I don't want to do my project this year, right? And it's such a sad conversation because I know how much they care. Otherwise, they wouldn't communicate, right? They wouldn't tell me these things. They want to get the project done, but they feel almost helpless, right? And they feel like there's no support there. So just like we talk about with marketing, I think it's very important that you have a strong right hand. It can't be one person. It can't be two people. It has to be what the program you have available to you in your situation, your community. Get as many people involved as you can appropriately and delegate. So that is the big word that I take out of this. Delegate early and often, just like we said, market early and often. Okay. Build a process, build a calendar, for lack of a better word, or a timeline out, right? From the beginning. Joe's going to take care of this. Susie's going to take care of that. Delegate, okay? Because we all know plan A very rarely comes to fruition. So make sure you have a plan B and a plan C and maybe a plan D, right? Because the yearbook is an ebbing and flowing world, both the process at a school level as well as at an industry level. So the more delegating you can do early, have people take ownership of a particular task, whether it's the photography, whether it's designing the cover, whether it's selling to local businesses. Empower them from the beginning to love and own that particular process. Delegate to them, and you will see the end result will be substantially better. It is better for one student to focus on one or two items than it is to have 10 students focus on all of the items. Get some ownership. And this goes back to this whole ideology of sales and marketing and the yearbook in general. These are real world skills that these students get by being involved in a yearbook program at a school. There is real world things that you take out of this that whether you go into the creative world or you go into the sales and marketing world, you will be able to utilize these skills. And one thing that I will tell you that as I am turning 40 next year, the delegation of both personal, professional tasks is something that I've always struggled with. We all want to take it on our own shoulders because we want the best product possible. We want ownership of it. But the best things that have come out of me personally and professionally have always had the input of not one person, but of multiple people. Because at the end of the day, having blinders on is actually generally not the right answer. Get involvement, empower your people, parents, students, faculty members, to showcase to them how important this process is and the stories that we've talked about a lot are. And I think at the end of the day, you'll get a yearbook that you are proud to say that you were the head honcho on or that you got to the finish line.
I don't want to hurt the feelings of the chess club people. I'm not sure that's real world. Okay. It's fun to play chess, not real world. I don't know if anybody actually has basket weaving club. Maybe there is. But I was going to mention real world stuff that these kids learn, and they're going to be using it later on down the line. College, military, trade school, go get a job, whatever it is. I'm absolutely 100% in agreement with you there on Shaun. All right, final question. All right, I don't know if you have a crystal ball there on your desk. I don't quite see it there. Maybe it's
no, just a Diet Coke, Scott. Just a Diet Coke.
Okay, use that. I don't care.
Okay. Okay,
now,
here we go. What do we got?
you can give away company secrets if you will. That's up to you. All right.
Okay.
I'm just, looking to the future. What does the future hold? Anything in your book? Now, top of the list is AI. All right.
Well, you
Artificial
just took my
intelligence.
answer, Scott. So what am I supposed to say now that you just took my answer?
Yeah.
You read my Diet Coke can, so I
Okay,
guess
now
we're
hold on. Sean, here's the thing though, and I've noticed this over several years now, and I think I'm still seeing it. Most yearbook companies like, okay, AI, all right, we got to do something with it, but we want to keep it at arm's length, all right, that sort of thing, which I'm increasingly seeing that as a mistake. That AI now is so prevalent that there's got to be some other ways to use AI for various yearbook functions. So,
absolutely.
what do you think about AI? And maybe for the future, is Yearbook always going to be the same? Are we going to be doing some things differently? What do you think there?
So the big thing here, and I'm actually really excited. My CEO, Elias Joe, myself will be speaking on this topic, AI, and the future of yearbooks for yearbooks and photography at SPAC. It's a photographer conference out in the Las Vegas every year. We are actually going to be doing a little seminar out there. So if anybody will be attending that, please, our session will be Saturday during SPAC at 10:15 a.m. I'm super excited to have a formal presentation on this. But I look at AI, and maybe not just on a yearbook level, but also just on a level of if you are a yearbook company, I view AI as the internet. If you remember 25 years ago or 30 years ago, whatever it was, when the internet came out, it was that's a fad. It's not going to stick. There's no way people are going to buy stuff online. They want to walk into a Sears Roebuck or they want to walk into their local Nordstrom and they want to buy their stuff in person. That will never change, right? That's what Sears said. That's what the Nordstrom said. High level type of retail spots, J.C. Penney's, right? They were late to the internet, right? Because they didn't believe in it. They didn't understand it. They didn't know the power that it had. Well, now, fast forward 25 years later, how are those companies doing, right? So the yearbook companies and brands that will survive AI and its ability to basically, hopefully, eventually build yearbooks for us from scratch, right? The companies that embrace AI and utilize it in a professional, appropriate manner, starting now, are the ones who will be there when the dust settles 5 years from now. We have tapped maybe 5 to 10% of the potential of AI at a current date right now as we end out 2025. I'll be honest, I'm a ChatGPT user. I've been using it for 18 months. Makes my life very easy from a correspondence, from a project management standpoint, all these things, right? But it doesn't replace me, but it makes me stronger. And so I truly believe the yearbook company that embraces it and utilizes it in an escalating manner over the next 1 to 3 years will be the company that's going to stand on the top of the hill in 10 years from now. And what that looks like to me is the ability to create whole book templates, right? To be able to write out a brand guide for a school, to be able to scan and determine bad photo tags, to be able to scan and determine good copy or text for a particular book. So the great thing is that the AI we have right now is really good at that. But creatively, that is the biggest stepping stone, I think, that we haven't seen yet, right? And that's what I'm most excited about. It can write copy and text and read essentially anything, pictures even these days, and write that type of information for you. But don't please, please, please don't lose your personal voice. Okay. AI is great. But at the same time, you can tell when someone's utilized it pretty easily, right? So it's not there to replace you. It's there to jumpstart your mind, come up with new ideas for you, utilize it as an assistant, not as the workhorse, right? That is my big piece there. But the yearbook world, it's good, it's coming. And the players who don't get in line and start thinking about how to create AI clip art, AI titles, AI copy and text within their design platform, they're going to be left in the dust, plain and simple. So I'm super excited for it. Can't wait to give our presentation on it. Like I said, in January with Elias. And I really look forward. It's just every week something new comes up. And it's going to be a game changer for yearbooks. It really will be, for sure.
Two things to wrap up. First, Sean, you mentioned 5 to 10% AI usage. I don't even think it's 5% yet. I mean, there is so much there, so much potential there that we're
Absolutely.
only sort of getting started with it now. So, yeah, these next 5 years are going to be real interesting. All right, so we're going to wrap things up because, Shaun, I need to get to my Kmart. All right?
Beautiful.
I need to get to the Kmart
I just
store.
came from Walmart, so I'm in your world too. I got to get all my stuff ready to go. You know how it is.
Yeah, but good luck finding a Kmart. Okay, they're not around.
That's right.
You mentioned Sears Roebuck. I'm like, Sears Roebuck. Oh my gosh, holy moly.
A big thank you again to Shaun Stapleton of Entourage Yearbooks for sharing some insights and ideas on good, creative yearbook marketing. If you are an AI user, hey, use that resource for ideas out there. And if you're a subscriber to our free Yearbooking Report weekly newsletter, you have seen our weekly AI idea feature. Just copy and paste the prompts that we display into any AI app, and you will get a long list of ideas and insights popping up on your screen. If you are not a newsletter subscriber, hey, go to our website, yearbookingreport.com, click on the newsletter link there, just look for our special Paperboy. Choose from between the high school college version or the elementary middle school version, enter your email address, and you're in. Unsubscribe anytime later if you wish. Lots of great ideas, some yearbook education, and inspiration in every weekly edition. We'd love to have you join the list. Thanks again for listening to the Yearbooking Report podcast. I'm Scott Geezy. We'll see you next time.